All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of the Creative Cranium. Got some terrific guests tonight, and I can't wait to talk to them. Our topic is going to be best convention practices. I figure I can learn a little bit from you guys, so I'm actually looking forward to this one. I figure a great place to start, why don't we go around the room? Of course, I know both of you, and I'm a fan of your work. But let's go around in a circle here, and we'll introduce ourselves and tell us which work you are primarily known for. Let's start with you, Travis.
Uh, that's that's a deep question. I think it's a little too deep. I don't know. What do you say, JD? Grand State Punk or Cthulhu? I don't know. One of the two.
Uh,
Cthulhu
coins of Judas.
Coins of Judas. There you go. Thanks. Very helpful, JD. We appreciate that. One of those three books you'll know me by, or the other four titles I have. One of them you'll know me by. But I have a lot of books.
Yeah, so Travis makes a bunch of books with his gang over there, the Orange Cone Productions gang. JD, tell us a little bit about what you're doing and who you are.
My name is JD Calderon. I'm the writer and creator of the Oswald Chronicles, Tall Tales, and a number of other things from the past that will one day arise. So yeah, but it's primarily the Oswald Chronicles these days.
Definitely a multi-talented group, polymorphous, if you will. And I'm looking forward to chatting with you. One of the things that we sometimes like to do on the show is to, of course, we promote our own products, but we like to have a little bit of knowledge as well. And I think that this is a great opportunity. We're entering into the convention season for the summer of 2023. And we want to talk a little bit about some best practices for conventions. As you know, this is something that it's one of the elements that I'm trying to improve on my own as we go forward. And I'd like to start out by saying, Travis, if you were, meeting a newer creator and they were kind of just starting out on the convention circuit, what would you recommend they do as a first step?
I'm not sure if this is what you want to hear, but I would say do the smallest convention you can.
And why do you say that? Expand on that.
Because so many go to these big conventions and they're like 400 something a table now. And if you don't know how to run that gamut, it's really hard. It's way better to, cut your teeth at, so to speak, at, a smaller con where you can, where you're an attraction, right? Because you're one of like 12 comic creators instead of one of 75. And that's 75 indie. That's not counting the 25 pros who work for Marvel and DC.
Right.
It's way better to cut your teeth on that. And your product, right? I remember when I started, I had one book at the table, right? It's just this one book, and that's all I could sell, and it was $5, and that's it, right? It's really hard to make that big chunk of money, that one $5 book.
I would agree with that, and I think that starting small is one of the keys. How about you, JD? What do you say about this topic?
I mean, if we're all right, let's take it from the perspective they've already booked the table. Right. So if they've already booked the table, I think the best practices is depending on the type of show you if they have a setup night to go the night before, set up your table. Okay. Have that prepped if you can. It's not always possible. Right. I've done San Diego Comic-Con and, preview night was technically the day you're supposed to set up was a Wednesday and you can set up in the morning because the show didn't start till like, I think 4 in the afternoon. But you could also come in Tuesday before the show. And I found it was much better to set it up on Tuesday. And then Daphne and I had spent the day at San Diego, the San Diego Zoo that morning. And then we went to the show. And that was awesome.
Yeah.
Because then you could just walk in rather casually, pull your covering off your books and, get to work, But that's one of the things. If you get there early, set up early. And in this way, it takes a lot of pressure off you.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. And just real quick, we'll shout out Mr. Fish Comics. Glad to see you. If you have some tips you'd like to share in the chat, we'd love to see that. I would agree with both of what you said. And I think that especially the smaller cons are maybe a way to get a little bit more intimate, excuse the expression, with your customers and your readers. You guys both have a ton of convention experience, and I really want to dig into this. One of the questions I'd want to ask is, which would you think out of the ones that you have gone to, what are some of the best cons for indie productions? Like, we all know the New York Comic-Con and the San Diego, but I would kind of gently put out the argument that might not be the best venue for an indie creator. What do you have to say about that, Travis? What do you think are the best for indies?
I mean, obviously, everyone says Heroes is the best for indies. That's a really good one. Anything that's comics focused, I think, is especially if you're doing comics, is going to be great. If you see it be, if all the ads are cosplayers and anime characters, you're probably not going to do well. Like, look at the ads, look at who the attraction. Like, I don't believe in that philosophy. Like, this show's better than this show. Like, just look at who they're promoting. Right? If their website is promoting things that aren't relevant to you, then you probably should not start there. Like I think that people make too much of that, because I know like Matt Knowles, for instance, he's at Spookula right now.
Right.
I probably wouldn't do great, though I have some horror stuff, but he does really well because there's a big steampunk crowd that goes to that as well. So you can make anything yours accordingly. But I think that the goal is to find ones that that cater to what you're trying to sell and build an audience for what you're trying to sell.
Perfect. Good answer. Welcome, Matt. Can you hear us okay?
Yeah. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. And
okay.
By the way, Matt, let me tell you, you weren't doing something wrong. There are, in fact, issues with StreamYard. We all had some various issues logging in. So thanks for joining us.
Oh, no worries. They were like two-step authentication, pick up your phone, get your iPad, like check in on like a million things to make sure it's you. I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but yeah.
Well, we're glad to have you, man. And you only missed one question, but I want to ask you too. So you and I know each other actually a little bit from being at the cons. Yeah. What would you say if somebody was just starting out, sort of a newcomer, if you will? What advice would you give to a newcomer who is trying to get prepared for their first con?
Oh, that's a good one. I like people who are alert and like looking up and like engaging. Like, there's nothing worse than the person that's on their phone,
looking at their phone. Yeah.
Head down. Like, you don't have to like overtly like be up and like, pulling people into your table, but just like,
engaging.
Look at them, smile, give people head nods. Just don't be like down and just not approachable. Like, I feel like that's the very first thing.
It may be the number one rule, and that's a great one too. And let's circle back to JD. JD, I want to hear what you have to say about one of the things we talked about is which would be the best cons for indies. And Travis mentioned Heroes. Unfortunately, that's one I have not done, but I've done it as an employee, but not as a writer, if you will. Do you have a favorite that you think is just exceptional for an indie creator?
There's a couple that I've been to. Boston Comic-Con was a lot of fun. That was a good show for us. We always did well there. Another one was San Diego Comic-Con, believe it or not.
No kidding?
Because, yeah, San Diego was great for us. But here's the thing is there's a section, right, where it's just small press publishers. So they have an indie publisher section, right, where the tables are for like small publishers, 4 or 5, maybe 8 or 10 titles, right? Gotcha. Annually, that sort of thing. People with multiple titles. And then you have your small press guys, and that small press section was like a small convention in and of itself. There was like 80 tables.
No kidding.
Just filled with independent publishers. And we always did great at that show. I mean, the only thing is that it's a very expensive show. Just the hotel is crazy. And we would split the hotel with like 4 or 5 other people. Well, people sleeping on the floor in the bathrooms, you name it. They're all over the place. But we always did love the show.
Just want to say a quick hello to Mr. Glenn Webb, and thanks for addressing me by my rap name, T. Flizzy. Haven't heard that one in a while. Always a pleasure. Matt, how about you? Independent creators, do you feel that certain conventions perform better than others? And if so, which ones?
Yeah, so my standbys are Heroes, which is coming up in a week. Baltimore, because it's mid-size, sort of like Mid-Atlantic City. You still have celebrities, but you do have a lot of comics pros, and you have the Ringos, which again, it's going to have a lot of comics pros help you by being there. But SPX in Bethesda, Maryland, Small Press Expo, if you're doing like a superhero comic, it might not do so great. But if you have like one of those, slice of life comics,
Right.
or just sort of like, a story that's like, hey, I've had a bad day, like this is how I'm dealing with it. Those things do really well at like SPX. So Heroes, Baltimore, SPX. I think those are all great.
Great selections. And, thanks for saying that. You're not going to believe this, but this year I actually, for those that don't know, SPX is done by this lottery system, right? And it's relatively hard to get into. And I thought, man, I'm going to put my name in, blah, blah, blah. For the first time, I get my ticket drawn and I look at the dates. It's the same weekend as Baltimore.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah. And it's like scheduling wise, I wonder who came up with that one, because potentially I might do better at SPX. I'm not particularly a superhero guy either, but the thing that I would say is I agree with what Matt said. Baltimore is very creator friendly, and it's very embracing, not only to the seasoned veterans, but like to the newest person. I've as you guys maybe know, I try to visit all the indie creators, or at least as many as I can find time to meet with and see what they're doing. And, it's a big tent. We kind of want to try and welcome the newer people. And I think that that's something that is very easy to do at Baltimore. And I think that, like Matt was saying, it's kind of a big tent, right? There's all kinds of stories, all kinds of comics. They have novels, and, it's a great place to be as a creator.
Now, both of those shows are in Maryland, right?
Yeah.
Right. And they're relatively close to each other. Bethesda's 25 minutes from Baltimore?
Yeah, they're going to split their audiences. Really not.
I thought that was a very odd choice, but I think maybe they weren't aware of it, because this year Baltimore moved from, before it was over Halloween roughly, and now it's September 9th. It's almost 2 months earlier. So we'll see how that does.
Gotcha.
So let's circle back to Travis. Travis, you mentioned earlier Matt Knowles, who's one of my favorite people in the creator space. And one of the things that he does really great is to create a compelling table display. And can you tell us a little bit about what you think might create, just a show-stopping table display?
So I think always, I think the quality of your racks really matter. Like, people say go high. I'm sure JD, he's from New York. Like, that's a thing in New York. Like, everybody's higher than everybody else when you go to like a New York con. So going high is one aspect, is just going as high as you can. But the other thing is making it inviting and open, like make it as clean as you can, try not to fill it up. Candy is a great trick. If you're a new guy, bring candy. People come to get their free candy, and then you get a chance to pitch. And you'll help parents find their kids, because kids can find candy anywhere. So that's also useful.
Sure, man.
But those are the things. I think just keeping it clean. Less is more. One of the things that I've learned in the last couple of years is just because you need like five covers to fund a Kickstarter doesn't mean you need 5 covers for every single issue you have on your table, right?
Right.
That's though it's great to have some of those variant covers, and there are absolutely people who will come and look for them. It's a distraction, I think, on the whole, and it makes you look busy. Too much, not inviting, and people can't get your photographs of what you are.
That's a great point. A little bit of sensory overload for a customer potentially. Okay, let's jump over to JD. JD, what do you think? What kind of things at your booth create a compelling table display?
Well, one year, we were at Boston. We knew we were going to Boston Comic Con, and always we had what we were referred to as the print mongers, right? And these are guys that all they do is they create prints of characters they don't own. Right, and they sell them, right? We know of these people, and it's fine. Look, they're out there, they're making a buck, right? And their walls are you just see behind them is just like this huge wall of prints, of 11 by 17 prints. And I was just like, I just wanted to be an ass. And I was like, and what I had done was I had created a wall of 11 by 17 Oswald prints, and it was all my covers. I had a 12-foot high display going all the way down behind me, and it was hilarious to see people stop. And they would look like they're supposed to know what this is. And they're like, why else would he display it like this if we didn't know what this was? So people would stop and they'd be like, oh, that's cool. That's cool. What is this? And listen, I got to sell a bunch of books that way. I sold a bunch of prints as well, which was kind of fun.
Yeah, I love
and,
that. Yeah, that's a terrific idea.
And to piggyback on Travis's thing, where less is sometimes more, and sometimes more. All right, so we, instead of bringing individual books, we like to bring trades to shows, and trades tend to do well, except when I had an omnibus. My omnibus, 580 pages, $40, right? That I had a real tough time selling. But I could sell 128 page, $20 trade all day long. I can sell that all day long. And mind you, in that omnibus is 4 trades, and I would have all 4 trades on the table in the omnibus. So the 4 trades is $80. The omnibus is $40. But I would get one person that would buy it one day. They would come buy the first one, and then they would come in and sweep in the other 3.
Yeah, I love that idea. Sure.
Yeah. So, it's a little funny, the mentality behind people, because on Kickstarter, I can sell the omnibuses all day.
Nice. That's a good one. I love that idea. And Matt, how about you? Now, do I remember that one of the things I remember about you, please tell me if I get it wrong, your banner is actually like a caricature of your head.
Yeah, I have 2. I have, well, while we're building, the one is me as a creator, and then there's one for the publishing company. So I kind of sit directly behind a caricature of myself. So kind of look down, there's an old guy with gray hair, and then bam, there's me. So, yeah.
I thought that was a great idea. And I tell you why, I have a little bit of a marketing and sales background, as some of you guys probably know. And one of the things that I had to learn in the creator space is that customers like to engage with someone they feel that they recognize. And of course, that's one of the reasons why we're doing this video thing. And like Matt, you've got a pretty diverse range of titles, and you also rep some other folks as well. What are some things that you found, would stop people, you always, specifically Baltimore, right? You got that browse factor. It's hard to be in a row of maybe, 70 people or whatever it is. What kind of things do you think work well for you?
Well, when we set up the table, one of the things that's difficult for us is we have a range of things. So we'll set up the table where sort of like the young readers will be at one side, sort of the things that I do with, I generally table with my creative partner, podcasting partner. So we'll put the stuff that we do together in the middle, and then the stuff that's sort of mine will be like right where I'm sitting. So we try to arrange it. And if we see little kids, we'll be like, hey, why don't you sort of make your way over to this side? So there's a little bit of design factor into like how we set the things up. But it is very difficult to have a variety of things. I have all ages books. I have, anthologies that I've been in and things that I've worked with a lot of people. And then I have sort of what I do individually by myself as these sort of, high concept sci-fi books. So we try to arrange them by like how they sort of fit. So again, if we see little kids, we can be like, all right, this is for you. If you're into getting a big book with a lot of stories, this is for you. Possibly if you're into like these high concept sci-fi things, these are for you. We also have a claymation figure of a dinosaur holding a laser rifle, which is cool. You put that right in the middle of the table. That stops kids. So that you could be like, hey,
how do you not like that? That sounds awesome.
Let's show you what this thing is all about. So there's a little bit of design in the table setup.
Yeah. And by the way, I thought I'm a fan of a couple of your titles. I don't think I knew the sci-fi one, but I have a Mossvale, is it?
Yeah, Mossvale, I'm the publisher of. So
yeah, that was a cool book. Thanks for turning me on to that. And also, I just finished Metal Eagle, which I thought was cool.
Oh, thanks. Yeah,
did I say that right? Metal Eagle, right?
Yeah, that's the Kickstarter I just finished. You have the digital copy. The physical copies are going out really soon. So yeah, nice. Really excited.
Congratulations.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
And I just want to jump on something that Travis said too, which we've had a tremendous success with. We talk about the ways to stop the customer. He mentioned having some candy, which I'm definitely gonna, when Travis says something, as most of you know, I always steal his ideas, so I'm definitely gonna steal
Smart.
that one. But we've been doing the sticker, right? And in the marketing terms, they called it, deposit and withdrawal. You make a deposit first. You say, hey, do you like stickers? No one says no to that question,
Yeah.
right? And or it's mine tend to be robots. If that doesn't work, say, hey, do you like robots? And almost everybody says yes to that. And then when they stop, we're going to talk about this in the next question, but it's, the elements of discovery. I don't always go into full on hucksterism, which, P.T. Barnum, although, I can do it. But you want to start out with things like, hey, are you having a good convention? What was your favorite part so far? And then just let them spiel. People like to be heard, right? And then you can kind of gauge, oh, this person might like this book or this book. I don't have the broad range of titles quite as much as you fellas, but I got a couple different ones that I can, you might like something like this. So one of you guys said it was Matt that said about the customer interaction, like don't be looking at your phone and so forth. Travis, when you're running a booth, do you sometimes you have a crew of guys, or are you doing it yourself? What's your plan of attack for conventions? How many people do you have?
I look at my phone and pretend I'm too cool for them, and then they just walk over and they're just like, why does this guy not need me? I don't know what Matt's talking about. You should only be on your phone. Preferably playing Pokemon, because you get a lot of Pokemon because a lot of people are putting up the little traps for what I have two methods. So one of my methods is to really just kind of sit there and engage and look for people who I think are my audience based on their t-shirts, based on what they're wearing.
Oh, hold on. Expand on that. I want to know that too, because that's part of the question.
Yeah. So if I if I have my crime book, if I see someone with a crime shirt, like a Quentin Tarantino shirt, I'm going to pull them over. If I see someone with a punk shirt, I'm going to pull them over for Greatest Day Punk. If I see someone with a Cthulhu, I'm going to pull them over.
Yeah. And share some details. You're like, hey, cool shirt. Like, when you say pull them over, give us a Travis line.
Yeah, I'd be like, hey, so you like punk rock, right? Yeah, and I'll interact, and I'll share something about what I like about it, so I can interact with them. We'll have that conversation.
Sure.
And I bring them over and kind of show them what I have that's similar to that, and then we have that conversation. And then if they blow me off, one of the crazy things that you'll hear, the biggest blow off you'll hear at any convention is, I don't like comics. So what I do, one of the things that it works tremendously, and I highly recommend it. If they say that, I like, hey, come here for a minute. Are you here against your will? like this is a comic con, so I want to make sure you're safe. And they joke about it. They're like, well, and then they open up a little bit because now you've joked to them, and they're like, well, I've never really got into comics. I like the Marvel and DC. Well, let me tell you about this. And then I pitch, and then I pitch a little bit, and most of the time they'll say no, but my final getcha is not like, is always like, hey man, like I totally get it. And I don't care if you buy my comics, but you're at a Comic-Con. I really think you should get one. That's what this is for. That's what keeps us alive. And that always will get that, will like half the time get probably the $5 purchase. And I think it's a good way too. I think that some people at cons are barkers, right? And I've seen this. Right. Henri, I'm going to use Henri, and I love Henri. He sells out at every convention. But talk to Henri. He has a hard time gauging what his fan base is because he does that. Because it's all just getting the books out there, and then you hope they come back, versus someone who you talk to, made that engagement, made the stuff, added them to your email list, did that whole relationship, and had that.
That's a good one. And so, JD, how about you? Like, when you, first of all, like Travis said, do you have a way where you identify your customer quickly, and how do you do so, if so?
No, I don't actually. But what I have discovered though is that when, like I said, we did San Diego probably for about 8 or 9 years in a row. We did every year from like 2001 to like 2009 or something. I don't know. And the one thing I found was I did find my audience, and it was young girls between and this was for the Oswald Chronicles, between the age of like 13 and 18. And for some reason, I had the same gaggle of girls coming and buying these books. And at the time, they weren't even comic books; they were prose. So I was writing these chat books, and they were all prose. And it would just come over, and every year they'd be like, you got a new one? Do you got a new one? Do you got a new one? And I would be like, yeah, I got another one. And and that was basically how I found that audience, because they found me. Because I have to be honest, I have a hard time identifying my own audience as well. Listen, but my true secret weapon is Daphne. So.
Yeah, sure.
That's my secret.
And do you mind if let's touch on that? Like, how many people at your booth then? 2, 3, 4? What's?
Usually it's just the two of us, but sometimes we'll have one other person. Sometimes it depends. But yeah, but it's usually just the two of us at a show.
Sure.
Oh, I skipped that, but it's the same thing with me. It's me and my wife, and then sometimes we'll have a visitor for the day.
Right.
Yeah, and I hope I get to meet Heather sometime. I still actually never met her. Matt, how about you? So, and I know you usually have a little bit of a crew with you, or at least it looked that way. Is that the case?
Yeah. Most of the cons that I do are, again, going to be with my, my close collaborator, Noah Ray. Every comic I've ever made, he's been a part of somehow. Do a podcast with him. We're very like-minded. So generally, depending on who's there, we can sort of figure out, which person should approach him. Noah's very much, well, not very much. Noah's a lot younger than me. He's about 20 years younger than me. So he can engage with sort of the younger audience, and I might be able to engage with the older white male audience. So it's generally the two of us. Sometimes I have my wife there. I've tried to do the whole, I'm like, if it's Sunday and you see a girl that's like walking by and she's really bored, be like, hey, did your husband or boyfriend bring you here and you're really bored? Like, check these things out, and just sort of sometimes try to have the feminine touch help me out. So, but that's generally my crew.
Yeah, I respect that. I've found that, and first of all, remember, viewers, there's no wrong answers here. Like, everybody's got to find their own angle of how they do things. And I've got a lot of respect for people who say things like my neighbor, Jeff at the Philly Con, does it all himself. He's a one-man show, and he flies in and out of town, and he sets everything up. And, it's a lot of work, right? Let's not underestimate that. And even the simple things like, well, I got to go get a sandwich, or I got to go hit the restroom.
Yeah.
The buddy system, I would recommend to anybody listening, bring a buddy, because there's going to be times when you're going to need a little breather. And hopefully you have what I call the right kind of problem. The right kind of problem is too many customers. And Matt also touched on something which I want to cover, which is it's nice if you can have a little bit of diversity at your booth, or a little bit of inclusiveness somehow. And there's different ways to interpret that, but we try to have people that speak languages at our booth, and that's particularly useful at Baltimore. Or at least we have Spanish and Mandarin at the table. So I want to talk to Travis about this, what I call hucksterism, which we touched on earlier, versus the elements of discovery. There's basically two types of customers, right? Which some people, you can say, hey, step right up, take a look at this book. It's the best comic in the galaxy. You might get that person, but chances are they might have just heard that, 10 times in a row. I try to go with what I call the elements of discovery, where you pull them in rather than push, right? Which in my case, what I do is I set up a little area there where you can read anything that you want to. That's what I'm trying to get them to do, is to notice the book, and maybe even have a couple of free ones. Do you have something like that, Travis?
I do. I tend to be able to be willing to give free stuff. So I have stuff that's out that's free, like postcards and like stickers and magnets and stuff like that. I don't tend to give away free books very often. I do at some of the bigger shows. If I'm doing a 4-day show, I'm not afraid to give away a book. A book to try to help sell. Like, we have the Cthulhu Invades Neverland and Wonderland. We have the preview copies, and I'm not afraid to give a copy away if I think that person is going to come back and buy a trade. But it's hard if you don't have that trade. That's one of the great things about, like JD said, the trades save you, man. Like, biggest advice for new people is getting to that trade as quickly as possible, because just selling a few of those helps you. And it doesn't even necessarily, maybe you would have sold the same as single, but your attitude's got to be better because you sold a higher ticker item. Right? If you sell a higher ticker item, your attitude gets better. Like, it doesn't matter if you could have sold 5 of the other one, like it feels that one time that you made the 20 or the 25, like feels better. So I do that, and I try to bring people over to that. But I'm also not afraid to do the huckster thing. If things are slow,
Right.
I yell and pull people over all day long. I don't like doing that because, again, like I said, I don't think you get long-term readers, and that's what I'm really searching for. I'm okay with the convention being poor, knowing that I got a long-term reader. In fact, I have a guy who comes to every one of my conventions. The last thing was like almost $500. He buys everything, all variant covers, all everything, every year at MegaCon. And then, in fact, this Wednesday I went to a rock concert. He had a rock concert. I don't know him personally, but he was randomly like, "Hey, I've always saw you at cons. You know me. We buy our stuff. Hey, do you want to come up to that rock concert?" Guess where I was? I was at that rock concert to support him because he's always supported me over the years.
Nice. Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, I would definitely agree with you there. And there is an element of when it is the correct time to use what I call hucksterism. Again, it's not the wrong answer, but you've got to know that some people are inclined to be resistant to that. JD, how about you? What's your thoughts on that? What kind of things do you use to help somebody discover the books? You got free items, postcards. What's in your arsenal?
I have a couple of things I do. Primarily, my thing is I like trading cards. So in there, you can get 500 of them relatively for almost nothing. I mean, they're not that much. You get 1,000 of them for like $30 or whatever, depending where you go. And I just hand those out. I say, hey, you like trading cards, and on the back of it has QR code, has information about the book, so on and so forth. So we have all that stuff. Another thing I was doing for a while, and it's something that I know works, is I would print up a digest size copy of My First Day, which is the very first comic that Oswald is in. It's his origin story. It's 24 pages. It was in black and white. It's digest size, and I would sell that book for $1, right? And I would tell the customers, "Come here. This book is $1 and has a money back guarantee. If you don't like this book, you bring this book back to me in the same way I sell, in the same condition I sell it to you. I'll give you back $1, no problem, no problem." So
that's a great idea.
It always gets a chuckle, right? Because everybody's like, it's $1, and you're gonna give me back my money. So everybody laughs, right? They give me their buck, and I would say 7 out of 10 times I have those same people come back to buy the next issue or a trade or something else. I've had one person ask for a refund for their $1, and it was a kid, and it was just so he would have enough money to buy a trade.
Sure,
right? Because he had $9, he needed $10 for one of my digest size.
Well, by the way, that's the perfect example of element of discovery, because what you did is you lured him and he discovered the other one, that's the type of thing that bands do all the time. I love to mention that bands and comic creators have a lot in common, and bands are all about, hey, listen to a little short clip or listen to one song. If you like this, you'd probably like our next release. Let's jump over to Matt. Like I said, I met Matt in Baltimore, and there was a couple of things I thought you had done really well. The first thing is you're a very good speaker, and you have you communicate very well with the customers. And right away I thought, oh man, this guy's onto something. What kind of things do you use to help buyers discover your work?
Wow. Now that you told me I was a really good speaker, I'm at a loss for words here. That's not a really good transition for me.
Get it together, man.
It's probably pretty similar to a lot of things that people said. I love like connecting with people. If somebody walks by with like an X-Men tattoo, like I'm gonna be like, hey, can I see your tattoo? Like there was a guy who had like a whole sleeve of like Jim Lee like tattoos, and we just brought him over, and he was like showing, and I'm like, do you have a Psylocke one? Because Psylocke is like my favorite X-Men. He's like, oh, it's right here. So just trying to figure out some sort of like common ground that you all
a personal
like, and I totally botched that one after you told me I was really good at he was like, I don't know what I'm talking about right now. So
it's all good, man. And like I say, it is something. It's one thing to flub it up here with us, right? But man, you were really good with the customers, I thought, and it was definitely one of the ones that stood out to me.
My very first con I did was at a pub in Baltimore, and I was just terrible at everything. And this was the only time in the history of the world that my wife ever encouraged me to go get a beer. Just like, go get a beer.
Take the edge off.
To like calm down.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right. So then like I went, I had a beer, and I was able to like calm down. But again, that's the only time in the history of my life that my wife has ever encouraged me to go have a beer. And that was just for me to sort of relax and just sort of feel comfortable and like get into the flow. So
Sure. And that's definitely something, you want to make people feel comfortable. And I always say that when how do I say this the right way? I never want to seem like I'm disparaging anybody, but a lot of times attendance of comic conventions or people in that type of space, maybe they might have, maybe underdeveloped social skills, or maybe they're on the spectrum in some way potentially. And you want to make some kind of environment that they feel welcome in. Right. And we've had a number of times where we've had customers, like you say, I'm kind of on the science fiction end, but we've had some customers that maybe had some difficulty communicating, but you knew right away, like there was something about it that makes them feel comfortable. They like robots or they like whatever. And you want to have a genuine interaction with that person in any way that you're able. And I sometimes say one of our things is we have anybody that shows, make sure I phrase this gracefully, maybe potentially a handicap of some type, or a service person, anything like that gets the free one. And, it's just maybe not the most profitable way to do it, but that is one of the ways you're probably reaching the correct customer if you do it. Let's circle back around. I want to talk about cosplay a little bit and its influence on conventions in particular. There's, I wouldn't say controversy, but there's some differing opinions, let's say. I actually am a fan of having cosplayers around my booth, and I always try to have like a little area where they can get their picture taken. First of all, I kind of enjoy the hobby. I enjoy creative people, as you know, and I think that it's only smart marketing on my part to take a photo, and usually you've got my logo in the background. Travis, what's your thoughts on having cosplayers sort of hovering around your area?
I wish they would stay in the other areas that are not my area so I can sell my damn comic books. I'm going to be honest, like cosplayers are the bane of my existence. It's not that I don't hate the hobby or anything like that, but they gather in groups and they stand in groups and they'll stand in front of your table for 45 minutes at a time and not let anybody and not care about anything around them. And selling to a cosplayer is almost impossible.
That's true. That's true.
Don't spend any money. Like, I don't know what they do. It's probably because their costume costs them a bajillion dollars.
I don't have any pockets.
Right. And when they don't, they'll come back. They say, oh, I'll come back when I'm out of my costume. But, then they never go. It's just cosplayers are rough. You can.
What do you mean by rough? Expand on that a little, please.
They're just a rough sell. They're a group of people because they're into hanging out. A con and enjoyment for them is not shopping, where most cons are used for someone who can buy. It's cons are the craziest thing, right? Mm-hmm. I would like to pay a whole bunch of money so I can then go pay a whole bunch of money. Thank you. It's the weirdest thing, but it seems to be working. So I'm not gonna. But for the people who do cosplay, they want to find other cosplayers and take pictures and do this and that. That's what they want to do. So even if they travel in groups, like I said, they rather groups, and there's traveling in groups is dangerous. I've sold the cosplayers, but when they come, if one person likes the book, you ever have that? And I'm sure you guys have had this too, where one person, you could tell that guy would buy the book, but the other people are not into it. So therefore they don't buy it. Like it's very tough. And again, I'm okay with you taking a picture, but you will stop the traffic in the whole row for you to get your perfect shot. And then like even worse than the cosplayer group is the photographer of the cosplayer.
Oh, right, because they stopped the line behind
them.
Yeah.
Right, and he's like, oh, I got this motion capture thing, blah, 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 blah. Like, I get it. You want her number. I get it. Like, just ask for the number. Like, stop wasting my time. So I think it's really hard. It's very frustrating, and I don't think, but I've even had people who bring cosplayers to their booth, and a lot of times all it gets is pictures. may get some movement at your table that your table looks busy, but
right. How do they
sales, I
say
don't
it?
think it helps.
Action breeds action, right? Or I might be saying it a little wrong, and first of all, Travis, man, I got to say thanks for that honest answer. Obviously, a truth bomb being dropped, because this is exactly what I meant by you see some differing opinions. JD, cosplay thoughts? Drop it on us.
Listen, I don't differ much in opinion from Travis. I mean, because the thing is they can be annoying, but I saw somebody said they never sold a book to I have sold books to cosplayers, because I've encountered a few that part of their costume, they'll have this huge satchel, right? And they usually they're usually playing a witch, and they usually have this big satchel, and they'll come over and I have their person, have their stuff, and they'll just buy some books. I'm like, okay, cool. So I have sold some. But for the most part, yeah, when they stop in front of your booth and they just stop traffic.
Yeah.
The best show that I've been at that controlled it the best was Boston Comic-Con, where they had an area specifically. They were like, you cannot take photos in the aisles. You cannot take photos in the hallways. We have this huge area. You go into this area, and that's where you take your photos. And that's where they would all congregate to, and they would stay there. It was kind of cool.
Okay, so we're 2 for 4. Matt, jump in here. Cosplay, pro or con?
I think I'm a little con. It's never really been my thing. I'm a guy who's all about like creating and making the books. But I also feel like there's a little bit of like different levels. Like, just say that like you're a girl, you got red hair, you want to be Pepper Potts, and you just like get like a clipboard or a computer and you walk around and you're like, hey, I'm Pepper Potts. Like, you can move around really well, but it's like, the guy that's like, hey, I'm Dr. Ock, and I have like 8 arms and I turn, and every time I turn, I knock down like 8 tables. Like, I feel like there's like levels to it. So like, I mean, it looks awesome, but like, don't try to like walk and like turn around and talk to your friends and knock down like 18 things. So like,
Sure.
If you're sleek and you're able to move around really well, that's one thing. But if you have like one of those big bulky ones and you're just knocking into everything, like
potentially a detriment to sales and the experience.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, I buy that. Straight answers. I guess, man, it's 3 against 1. I'm the only guy that's pro cosplayer. So you can send them over to my booth. I'll just quick comment why. I'm still building a brand, right? It's still about the elements of discovery. I'm not to the level yet where I'm 100% focused on sales. What I mean by that is that, how do I say this the right way? Look, I want to make money. I'm a capitalist, you understand? I'm not saying I don't want money, so don't hear that. But to me, it's about getting the exposure and the marketing, and how do I further my brand and become a recognizable figure in the space. And, to me, there's some benefit, and maybe not a monetary benefit, and maybe not even right away, maybe not for several years. But, cosplayers, one thing they do tend to do is take a lot of photos of the things. And if I have them stand in front of my booth, I try and get the logo in the shot. And what that means is I've got my logo going across Instagram, TikTok, whatever their preferred method of social media is. By the way, viewers, I'm not saying that I'm right about this. This is something I'm attempting. And like I say, it'll probably take me a year or 2 before we know it would even work.
I think one thing that might be helpful if you're an artist, I feel like everybody here is sort of on the writer side, but like my partner is an artist, and he'll have like multiple sketch cards down. So if he sees a Batman, he'll be like, hey, Batman, come over here. Can I give you a sketch card of Batman? Or if he sees like a Wonder Woman, he'll be like, hey, Wonder Woman, come over here. Can I give you a sketch card of Wonder Woman? Generally, they just take it and keep moving, but it's one way to possibly bring them in. But
yeah, I get it.
Well,
my art skills are not going to bring them in.
Because of the Cthulhu, because of the Wonderland and the Oz, if I see a girl dressed as Dorothy, or if I see someone dressed as Alice, I will give them a trade, because I know all day
it's your customer.
They're going to be holding that because they don't have any pockets, and it fits my brand. So if someone's taking a picture with them, they will see the book and be like, "Oh, where'd you get that?" And it could lead to sales. So I'll give that away all day.
I did Ocean City Comic Con. And if I saw somebody with a Cthulhu shirt, I'm like, and like
yeah,
this,
absolutely.
this,
There's my guy, right?
yeah.
Mhm.
And a quick shout out. Yeah, Pops. I assume that's Pops there with the Madness Comic Network. You got a point. I'm still in the early stages of the things that I'm networking and attempting to build a brand. Hey, and again, thanks to the Comics Madness Network for putting us out across these affiliates tonight. It's something like 8 or 10 channels, I think, tonight.
Nice.
So thanks for the support, guys.
Mhm.
One next question I'd want to ask you. And by the way, Travis, you know Jason Brodnick, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Heck of a good guy. I would
Right.
love to get his opinion on this. He is a diehard comics only guy, and it's something that works for him. But he's very kind of, I don't know if stern is the right word, but he's like, filter out all the root beer stands, Funko Pops, all the stuff that maybe you and I might not want or that he might not want. And by the way, I get his angle too. I mean, I get it. But, I do think that it's kind of like Pop said in the comments. It is something that, I guess what I would say it like this. Maybe there's no such thing as bad publicity, but you got to feel Travis's point. If it's affecting sales, there's got to be some way to.
Well, let's talk about Jason's show. I did Jason's show earlier this year. I flew up to New Hampshire to do it, and it was a one-day show, and I made about $1,000.
Okay.
It was a wild and great thing. Yes, I do have a book called Granite State Punk, and I was in New Hampshire. So, we'll say that my numbers probably were a little skewed compared to the rest of the table. But it was such a great experience with the people I talked to because I have never in my entire life been to a room that had four amazing Fantasy 15s on the floor.
Right,
you can see that at a Boston Comic Con or MegaCon, because the one company who wants to risk it to get it not stolen, it brings it because they felt safe and they felt safe with their peers. When you came up to the table, it was so fun, listening to people, so there was guys who were next to, we're classic. If you're not asking for something Silver Age, they don't know what the hell you're talking about. And then you've got the other guys who are variant cover all day. Here's 27 copies of Venom 500, or whatever number the Venom anniversary issue was. And getting on them all in the room, it was funny to see because even though it's comics, there's still tons of diversity in just that medium. And then not counting us, the artist, and stuff like that. I did really good. Everyone who went to that show felt really good and positive. I mean, I'll do that show every year if I can because just the way it was done. And from what I understand, Heroes is very similar that too. Yeah, they don't. And just so you know, there was cosplayers there that came to Jason's show, but they didn't have all the stuff that they came for. Right? There was no costume contest to figure who won first. You just wanted to dress up and you came in. It's no big deal.
Yeah.
And then it's back to the old school tactic. The best tactic for any con, and I keep forgetting to say that. That's why I'm going to say it here is put the book in their hands.
Yeah.
That you've already got them to commit to 50% of the sale.
Yeah.
They've already agreed to take it. So now you just got to go the extra way. So if you can get it in their hands, you have a better chance. You have a 50% chance of selling it.
Yeah, that dinged up reader copy that everybody manhandles the whole con. Just feel free to just flip through this and then they're like, this is cool. Then you reach in and be like, here's a brand new clean one. But that one that everybody has touched, or as many people as you can get to touch, that the CGC 3 at the end of the con or whatever.
right.
Just be like, here, touch it, flip through it, just whatever looks cool. All those reader copies that are on the table, whatever looks cool, pick it up and touch it, because I got clean ones back here that once you commit to it, I'm going to hand it to you. So yeah.
Travis kind of had a point too, in that the comic fan that you'd get, for example, at Jason's show, it's probably a little bit more of a diehard than the average that has so many features. And I have an anecdote from the Little Giant show. And this is, by the way, I was there at the time I was working for Hakes, representing their collectible auction and, showing Star Wars figures and this kind of thing. And what happened to me was, I didn't have a banner. I didn't say what I was doing. I'm working a booth for a company. I'm basically one of their, take submissions and classic comics and helping people appraise comics, this kind of thing. It's in my background. And man, I had people coming up to me. There was one, he's like, are you author Timothy Fling? I said, I am, you know. And doesn't she open up a box? She's like, would you sign my books? She had every book I had ever wrote in there. It was 9 books in there. And that's something that probably wouldn't have happened at any other con. And I was like, wow, this is a hardcore comic collector. Plus she was from Maine or something and drove down just for that one. So there is something to be said for the hardcore comics folks being grouped together in one room. So let's switch over to one more question, because I want to give some time at the end to do some shout outs for you guys' awesome projects. And Matt, you got something live? If you do, send me a link over in the private chat.
Okay.
So Travis, I want to ask you, one of the things that we have been considering doing, and more than considering, I've started doing, is to try and team up with other creators to try to, wait, JD knows this one too. We've talked about it 10 times. Would you, for conventions, team up with a like-minded creator to try and, you know, one of the things that I feel that we as individual creators sometimes don't quite capitalize on, we haven't figured out a way to unite our efforts. What would it take to get Travis to team up with a group of like-minded creators, or do you maybe not like the idea?
Well, I hate everyone. I'm all about myself.
Well, that's true. Yeah, sure.
Everyone knows that, so maybe that's clear. So I just want to make sure I say that. But let's pretend, for sake of argument, that I would team up with other people. So there's 2 things. So one, I'm going to tell you, like, I think that's a great idea. I think getting an island of creators. One of the things I love about authors know it's really hard to sell at conventions. So that's why they buy one big table and all sit together, and it works because you can buy the stuff. It's the same thing I do with Cthulhu, right? If Matt is at my con, I'm going to send them to Matt to get the book signed. So then Matt has a chance to sell the book. And then Matt, he has Cthulhu. If he sells it, he's going to send them to my booth. So it's going to help us cross. So that's what anthologies, that's the biggest value of anthologies, in my opinion, is getting those cross promotions to get, because if I sent it, so let's say JD is in the next Neverland. Let's say it comes to me, and I get it comes to me from JD. I know that it's a good sale because they've already bought an independent comic, so I can probably pitch them, and then vice versa. JD's going to spend a little bit more time than just that signature, because he's like, this guy bought it once, more than likely to get it for the other one. The other thing that we've done in the past is you can create where you buy tables together that are near each other so you can feed off each other. One of the things that cons do poorly is they believe, I don't know why they believe this, but there's a belief in cons that we want one comic guy here, and then next one we want them to sell art, and then over here we want crafts, and then cosplays over. We want to mix them up, and then down there's more comics. Where if you talk to any comics person, we would rather just be in a row, and so someone could go, oh, this is all the indie comics, I want to get it. And when I was buying indie comics, like before I was a creator, I would have loved that, because I literally went row by row, ignoring everybody but the comics people to get it. So I think that the best way to do that, to counter them, is just buy it as a block. We're going to buy all that. The problem with it is it doesn't always displays get tough, like where it is. Humans.
They are the worst, man. So let's jump over to JD. JD, getting back to the team up concept. First of all, would you consider doing it? And the second thing is, what kind of things would have to be in play before you found somebody that you said, hey, this could be my partner, or however you worked it out? I'm sure there's many details, but what's your thoughts on it?
2 of the coolest things I've seen done was, they were both at Anime Boston, right? What one company had done is they had a card game that they would have, right? And they would print them on business card size, and they would be like, look, you could be part of the deck. It costs you like $20, $25. You'll get like 250 cards. And they did that for all of the artists in the artist alley. So, you could just opt in, right? Yeah. And then they would at the show front, they would give away a little bag to everybody who came in with a couple of cards. And they said, all of the artists have these cards so you can complete the deck. And you can set your own price. You can sell them for $0.25, 50 cents, whatever. You could give them away. And and I thought that was really good. And you would get one or two cards, and I had Oswald on a couple of casting spells and whatever, and they would integrate it into the game. And I thought that was perhaps one of the cleverer ways that I've ever seen that sort of thing happen, where you worked, and it was like you could literally go down a row and pick up 25 cents, 50 cents, pick up these cards. I thought that was pretty cool.
Good answer. Matt, how about you? Now, in a way, you're already teamed up by your publishing deal. Am I correct?
Yeah, a little bit. Just to piggyback on what Travis said, with the books, like the best are the anthologies that have the signing plates in the first couple of pages.
Right.
Because if somebody buys it, I'll be like, hey, Don Wynn is 2 rows over there.
Yeah.
He's in this book. Travis made this book. He's over there. Like those, the signing plates. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Travis, that's beautiful, buddy.
Those are key, because if somebody buys those and that like the people at your con, the people at the con are in those books, I'll even pull out the map and be like, this is exactly where this person is. You just bought this. You need to go get them to sign, their signature plate there. So that's part of it. I have a publishing line. I'm gonna use that in quotes. But
why do you use that in quotes? You've got some great titles there. What are you telling us?
I guess that's maybe a little bit of.
Are you being humble?
Imposter syndrome right now. I mean,
right, yeah.
Everything I've published, I've crowdfunded. It's still me, like bringing it in, making it, but I feel like it's still really small scale at this point. But one thing I think that is really helpful is, as soon as you get to the con, making friends with the people to the side of you,
your neighbors,
so that like they know what you have and I know what they have. Like I did a horror con, and people were there to get their picture taken with Mike Myers, and I did terrible.
Yeah.
But the guy next to me was a really cool guy who had a vampire and werewolf comic book, did much better than me, but he struck up a conversation with me. We became friendly. So, they came here. Cthulhu did really well, HorrorCon, but like some of the other stuff didn't do really well. But I was like, hey, make sure you check out Dennis's booth next to me. He's got an awesome werewolf comic. So like that friendship that you can create for that weekend with the people directly next to you, I think is vitally important, because they know what you have, I know what you have, and I can kind of feel out that customer.
Yeah.
And maybe I can, that customer comes to me and he's like, these sci-fi books are not my thing, but I can be like, hey, guy next to me has got something that is, up your alley, and he might be able to do the same thing for me, because he might, the person that I wasn't able to make eye contact with, I wasn't able to bring into my booth, go to theirs, and they're like, I'm not really into this werewolf thing. I like Blade Runner, I like Star Wars. And he's like, hey, you know what? The guy next to me's got the stuff for you. So like the people directly next to you can be your greatest allies, and they also can allow you to leave your table and watch your table while you have to use the bathroom or get something to eat. So, the teamwork that you can make with the people directly next to you is very important too.
Yeah, well said. And it kind of ties into what Travis said earlier. It kind of fosters that environment of positivity. I'm super corny, guys. I believe that if you're putting out positivity, that's what you're going to get back, right?
Mm-hmm.
And thanks, by the way, Gary and Mr. Fish Comics and Glenn Webb and Comics Related Madness for sharing your comments. Appreciate the people watching the show. We're almost to our time. So, man, before I forget, I definitely want to take some time and talk about you guys' projects and what we'd like to kind of learn a little bit more about them. So let's start with Travis, and let's see here. We're going to do that one. Okay. This is for Broke Down and Four Dead Bodies. That's volume 1. This is the anthology, right, Travis? It's the collective.
This is not it's not an anthology. This is the collected of the series. So this
Yeah,
is,
it's what, 4 issues, 5?
yeah, it was a 4-issue miniseries. I think I have. Oh, there they are. Right here. 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Nice.
I've had these done for a long time, and I finally put them together in a trade paperback. And I'm excited because this is my first trade of collecting things. I've done, Cthulhu trades, and I've done Holiday Spirits, but this is my first work together. And it's about 2 guys who break down on the side of the road. They've got everyone after them, from a mobster to a drug cartel to the police to a biker gang. They're all out to kill them. These 2 do not like each other, and they have 4 dead bodies in a case. So it's a rough situation. But if you like crime noir and you want to see it told in a new way, check the book out. Like I said, it's completely done. And we have some really cool stretch goals of adding a whole bunch of new pages. And if you've read it before, we do add a couple of new epilogues and scenes in the book to help out. So please check it out. It's super important to me. So
well, let's do a little call to action. That's Broke Down and Four Dead Bodies. That's on Kickstarter right now. If you're a fan of Travis Gibbs' work the way I am, you're going to want to check this one out. I particularly love Crime Element series, and I think you got a winner here, buddy.
Thank you. Yeah, it's done really well. Like, all of our Kickstarters are funded for it. I'm excited about it. I really am, and I'm hoping that people will come and pick up the trade, and people who've been waiting to read something complete. This is your first opportunity, because everything else, we're in process of making things.
Nice. That looks terrific, man, and I wish you every success with that one. I'm going to jump over to our next title here. This is JD. First off, I love this title. That's I Was There and I Remember. JD, tell us a little bit about this title and who your target audience might be. Tell us why they will love it.
This is the exact opposite of Travis's audience. It's complete fantasy, right? So we have mice, fairies, goblins. We have Oswald, who's the mouse, who's the lead character, and he did something that any mouse would do. He ate a ladybug, right? And you would think it was a very innocuous thing to do, except for the ladybug. She, obviously she lost her life, but she had an owner, and it was this little gnome, and this was a very special ladybug, and for some unknown reason, it allowed Oswald to eat her, right? And this gnome wants recompense. He was like, "Yo, you have to, you need to make right by this, right? This was a very special thing that you destroyed." So he says the only place we can get a replacement is in Dream. So we have to go into Dream, approach her mother, and you have to convince her mother to give me another one. And that's the adventure. Oswald goes into Dream, and while he's there, he discovers there are various other things that happen to him. He gets introduced to another race called the Mar, who he eventually becomes a part of, and it becomes part of the greater story of his story. So this leads into the next section of his life. So this is like an ongoing series that I've been working on for a while. And like I said, it gets a little crazy out there.
I got to tell you, man, I love the charm of this series. I love the title. I really think you got something here, man. Let's do a quick call to action. I Was There and I Remember. That's over on Kickstarter right now. Strongly recommended. I'm a fan of JD's work. I think that it's first of all, it's unique. It's not what a lot of other people are doing, and also you got a long track record of fulfilling projects on time. So you're basically for sure to get that book.
Oh yeah.
So buy with confidence, backers.
Oh yeah.
So now, as far as Matt, I'm just hearing about this for the first time, but this is also another title that I love. Cosmic Caveman and the Volcano Worshippers. Matt, tell us a little bit about it and who will love this project.
Yeah, so I am the publisher of this one. My creative partner Noah, this is his first foray into writing. He's normally a line artist, letterer, all those stuff. But he got the writing bug, and he was like, "Hey, can we take this to Ageless?" So it is the Cosmic Caveman. It is Jack Kirby meets sort of Samurai Jack. That's
right.
the art style. What the first thing I saw when it was pitched to me was those big meaty Kirby hands. So basically There's a planet that's getting ready to explode, and we have Crud, the cosmic caveman. He's trying to save this cute little dinosaur that's in his hand to some other dinosaurs who believe throwing him in the volcano will be the cure for all of their problems. So it's action packed. It's 20 pages. If you like Jack Kirby, Crazy Fourth World, if you like Samurai Jack, this is the book for you.
It looks cool, man. I particularly like the. I'm a sucker for thick black line ink styles,
Yeah.
and that is some bold inks on that dude right there.
Yeah, the art is done by Clint Kaiser. Noah again brought Clint in. Interesting story. Noah was buying a bunch of art commissions from Clint, and he was like, "Hey, you know, I've bought so much art from you. Do you want to make a comic?" And he pitched them this idea, and they brought it to me. So yeah, we're launching on June 14th. We're gonna actually have ash cans at Heroes Con. First 5 pages, QR codes that will take you to the Kickstarter. It has a page of a blank page. If you're at Heroes Con, Noah will sketch for you. So that's a bit of promotion we're going to try to do while we're at the con. Not often that I'm at a con where I'm promoting a Kickstarter, so we're going to try some different ideas here.
Yeah, I'll follow that with some interest because I've been trying to do that. I try to schedule Kickstarters over Baltimore, so maybe we can talk about that. So call to action, that's Cosmic Caveman and the Volcano Worshippers, and it's pre-launch right now. Go over and check that out. If you're a fan of Jack Kirby, don't miss that one coming from Matt Kuhn. Now, first of all, guys, I want to tell you, I wish you every success with these projects. I mean, they look terrific. And we're just about to our time, right? So before we go, let's just real quick go around in a circle. And for the viewers that are just tuning in, tell us who you are and where we can find you next. And you can either use online or if you are at a convention, mention that. Travis, you go first, buddy.
My name is Travis Gibb, and I have not killed a ladybug, so I'm using fun. I will be at Space Coast Comic Con this weekend. That is here in Melbourne, Florida, in Palm Bay. So if you are out here, got some stuff. We've got Expired 2 and Holiday Spirits 2 and Coins of Judas 2. No, not Coins of Judas 2. I'm sorry. What's the other one? No Contest 2. Lots of 2s. Lots of issue 2s. If you like issue 1s and you're like, you know, I've had that. I want an issue 2. I got some for you. I'm best found on my Substack, travisgibb.substack.com. That'll bring you to all my socials, to Facebook, Twitter. But, you know, if you're so excited about the time we've spent together, this intimate time, just go to Brokedown and ForDeadBodies.com and go ahead and just give it $1 or a share. That'd mean the world to me. That's the best way we can spend time together.
Good advice. Good advice. Don't miss it. Broke Down and 4 Dead Bodies. That's live on Kickstarter right now. We'll jump over to JD. JD, who are you and where can we find you?
Well, I'm JD Calderon, the writer and creator of the Oswald Chronicles and Tall Tales. You can find me on DeviantArt, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all under JD Calderon. And Sunday nights on YouTube, having a show similar to this where we're talking to creators is called Talking on a Sunday Night Comic Books. And you just come on, we talk to a bunch of different people. Travis has been on, Timothy's been on, Matt, we got to bring you on at some point.
It's a good show. It's a good show.
And we just talk comics. So
yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, and you guys have some good topics too. Matt, it's last shout out. I was there and I remember. That's live on Kickstarter right now. Go over and check it out. Call to action. You won't be disappointed. We'll jump over to Matt. Matt, tell us who you are and where can we find you?
Yeah, so I'm Matt Kuhn. I am mostly a comic writer. I've dabbled in some art here and there. MattKuhn.com is my website. My name with just the .com. I have the left side. I think if you look, it's got links to all my social media. So I think that's the easiest place to go check things out. I also do a podcast called Constructing Comics podcast. The co-host of that is Noah. We showed his Kickstarter that's showing up. And a cheap plug, Travis is going to be on that show next week talking Broke Down.
Nice.
So bit of crossover there.
Sweet. Well, look forward to that. And of course, your title now is Cosmic Caveman and the Volcano Worshippers. It's in its pre-launch right now. Go over and check that one out.
Thank you.
So guys, before we go, I just want to say to you, thanks so much for coming on and sharing your convention knowledge. It really means a lot to me. You know, as Travis knows, I'm trying to level up my game, and, you know, I learn a lot from these kind of interactions, and I'm grateful to you for giving us a little bit of your time.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, man, it's a pleasure.
So happy to be here.
Yeah, it's awesome. Great job with the questions. And to the viewers, thanks for tuning in. That's an episode of the Creative Cranium. If you are a creative type person, writer, creator, sculptor, poet, musician, man, I'd love to have you on the show and ask you some questions. Just reach out to me. All are welcome. It's a big tent out there. So thanks for tuning in. We'll look for you guys next week. Good night, everybody.
Good night.